I'm eating a waffle. Today, for the first time, the weather is clear again. Haha, we can breathe again. How wonderful. Not a nice, what a nice feeling. And I'm having a day off. I started working a while ago and I did only 1 day or 2 days a week. And and now I'm working 5 days a week. But I like it. I really like it. I'm doing food demonstrations, and yeah, I talk with everybody, say hello to everybody. I thank all the veterans for their service, and see families with children and couples, and I see all sorts of people. Everybody comes shopping. Lonely people, happy people, old people, yeah, hardly able to walk, people in wheelchairs. I see basically the whole of humanity passing by my little food stand where I give free samples of gummy bears or yeah, a certain kind of snack, you know, tortilla chips with some salsa on it, or anything, you know. Kombucha, that is some sort of a health drink. Anyways, I like it, and I feel fortunate that I am in this phase of my life doing what I'm doing, because in the not so distant past I was having a job which was extremely intense. I was a delivery driver, and the people I was working with, they were extremely nasty. I'm so glad to be out of that job. And I worked so hard. I liked working hard because it was very physical work. Yeah, loading up big trucks with all these materials, landscaping materials, pipes and boxes full of appliances. I did all that, and I delivered that. I drove around for miles and miles. Sometimes I was gone the whole day. And but yeah, I enjoyed that, but I'm so glad to not be doing that anymore, because my current job is much less stressful in that sense. It's just this little cart with food that I do, and yeah, it's something that I enjoy. So, good morning. So this is something I want to address today. I'm still trying to see what I'm going to say exactly about it. It has been a long time coming for me, this what I'm going to say, and it is really, yeah, it goes way back into my history. But this is it. Okay, so what I'm explaining on this video, it is about a certain attitude that I've had, because I have been studying psychology. Yeah, I worked for many years in mental health in various capacities, And I taught psychology for many years. I studied it myself, of course, and I studied behaviorism also. So I've got all this knowledge, all this experience also in this field. But one of the good morning. One of the aspects about my involvement with all of that was something which preceded my study, which went before even I came to America, and which was my ability to accommodate others, my ability to help others, or to, I don't know, in a sense you could say my ability to be a good boy, to to give off the impression as if I am helping, as if I'm kind, as if I am good, as if I am accepted. Of course, I never felt accepted, and I never felt recognized. I never felt validated for who I am. But apparently, because of how I grew up, I strongly had that inclination, and that sort of set the stage for me studying psychology. That set the stage for me working in psychology and dealing with all these people with their mental health issues. Even when I was a psychology instructor for all these years, I still kept on reading all these papers from all these students about their problems and about their traumas and about their stuff. And yeah, I responded to that as kind as possible, as supposedly thoughtful as possible, or as as compassionate as possible. Yeah, because it makes no sense to go against it, of course. It makes no sense to confront people. But I have always been a very confrontational person. Yes, it is true. I've always been a person who at some point had enough. At some point I just said, well, fuck it. This is just not who I am. This is not what I want to do. And I'm not going to be abused like this. I'm not going to let people walk over me, accuse me of all kinds of things which I haven't done, and presumably be humble and take it. No, fuck it. I am not going to do that. And I'm not some pushover. And yes, everybody who has wronged me in my life, everyone who has, you could say, distrusted me, and who has, rejected me, or has questioned me, or has accused me, they can just all go to hell. And you know who you are if you hear this. I hope you do. I never wanted anything out of anybody other than honesty and sincerity. And if you do not get that from me, then you're full of shit. And if you somehow still hang on to your own whatever it is that you supposedly find so important, well, that is also your shit. Because why aren't you having embodied language with me? Yeah, that's what I'm about. And that's what I've always been about. And at this point in my life, I say with a very clear and calm voice that no, I don't put up with anyone's disembodied language. You take care of your own shit. And, you know, this should actually also be the stance of psychologists, not a stance of unconditional positive regard. The hell with that bullshit. No, as a psychologist, it should be okay to actually say, no, you are having disembodied language and you need to stop your disembodied language. That's what's going on. Yeah? And that's, I'm not a psychologist. I luckily didn't become one, because that would have worked not very well for me. I do not like to be told how to speak and how to be, because I go on my own authority when it comes to this. And I speak from my own understanding of what this is. I have embodied language, and that is my individual language. And I do not compromise on it. I cannot compromise on it. Even if I tried, I couldn't. Yeah. So, I have for a long time, because I wanted people to have embodied language, even though I somewhat knew it, but I didn't really know it the way I do today. But for a long time, I just still wanted people to have embodied language, and I wanted to have embodied language with people. And so I did everything to make that possible. I accommodated, again, people. Yeah, I accommodated all sorts of people with their traumas, with their religions, with their mental health issues, everything. I just was able to roll with it. And people in situations, in job situations, people in class, people in the work situation where I was, I don't know, group leader of a group home. I was working in a psychiatric health facility. I was giving therapy. You know, I've done all these things. And I was always able to let people have embodied language. Yeah, it's stunning actually that I was always able to do that. However, as I was saying at the beginning of this explanation, because it is an explanation, it is a translation of my history, a translation of what I've been and how I no longer operate. I have always been tolerant, basically, of people their disembodied language, but in reality, I was tolerant because I felt I had to, and I had to become something. You know, I had to learn something. I had to, I don't know, become a teacher. I had to become a therapist. I wanted to study psychology. I wanted to know everything there's to know. And I wanted scientific proof, scientific evidence for my own views. Yeah, I wanted scientific validation, which I found. Multiple sources I have found, which completely support my point of view. So I feel totally empowered to speak the way I do today, because I've gone through all this stuff where, yes, I have done the groundwork or the grunt work or whatever you call it. I've dealt with the most difficult cases you can imagine. People that were suicidal, people that were, I don't know, violent, or people that were totally self-destructive with their addictions and all that. I've dealt with it all. I've seen it all. And today I say I'm so happy that I'm simply giving food samples to people and I don't have any involvement with anybody's problems. And as far as people with their problems are concerned, I would like to just say, you can all just go to hell with your fucking problems. And in essence, I've always been saying that. Because we can have embodied language, and that's what I'm really about. Yeah. And so, and yes, for you to be able to have embodied language, you need to stop your own disembodied language. And yes, if you don't want to do that, well then, again, you can just go to hell. Live in your wonderful self-created prison and leave me alone, because I don't want to have any part of you. Yeah. And so I only want people who have done the work, who have perhaps listened to me. I hope you, I assume you would have listened to me. If you do the work, you're not going to do the work unless you listen to me. Sorry. Yeah, you haven't done the work. You couldn't do the work because nobody was there to tell you to listen to yourself. I'm the only one who does that. And I'm the only one that stimulates you to hold back on your disembodied language and to give yourself permission to have some freaking embodied language. Yeah. Because if you don't do that, if you do not stop your own conditioning with your disembodied language, you will never be able to have embodied language. And yes, there will be a time, a period, there is going to be I do not know exactly how long it's going to take for you to be able to have ongoing embodied language, but you need to hold back on your disembodied language as much as you can so that you can experience what it is like to talk like this, to have embodied language like I do. Yeah. And then if you do, that history of conditioning with disembodied language, it's still there, of course, but you will be able to continue with your embodied language because you just know how beneficial it is to hold back on your disembodied language. And so you will do whatever it takes to stop your disembodied language. And you don't blame me or anybody, yeah? Because you can blame me for, I don't know, saying like, oh, he wants that, he expects that, he demands that. No, you want that. You do that. You stop yourself from doing that. And unless you do that, nobody can do it for you. Yeah? So, unless you do that, you cannot have embodied language. And that's why you haven't had any embodied language. Because that's another thing that you need to get from this video. And you hear it here very straightforward. Yeah, you haven't had this. You claim to have had this, but it was never really what this is. So what you believed to have, what you believe to have, you believe to have had embodied language, but it was not embodied language. Yeah, it was still disembodied language. And why was it disembodied language? It was disembodied language because you ended up feeling bad again. You ended up feeling troubled again. And then somehow you found your way back again. Okay, you stopped it again. And then you were feeling good again. And you keep going back and forth between all sorts of, I don't know, troublesome experiences. You cry, you complain, you scream, you are upset, you have another conflict, you have another problem that you are trying to solve or that you're dealing with or that you cannot figure out. Anyway, there's all sorts of shit going on. And meanwhile, you are continuously involved in disembodied language. You only have embodied language when it continues. Okay? So embodied language is meaningless if it doesn't continue. As a matter of fact, it is deeply troubling when you have it one moment and when the next moment you don't have it. So how that comes about is a very bold change in you where you say, okay, I got to permanently hold myself back from my disembodied language. And you have all kinds of justifications for why you have it, and you have all your excuses. No, you just gotta stop it. Yeah, you just gotta stop, and you gotta do it, not me. Unless you do it, you're not going to have this ongoing embodied language. You are not having it because you refuse to do this. You refuse to do what it takes to have embodied language, which means you go against your conditioning history. Okay, and you can say, oh yeah, but I was conditioned that way and it is difficult and nobody wants to have embodied language with me and all that. And it's all true, but it is in the end just another stupid excuse for you not to have embodied language. Because, what do you want? Do you want this? Do you want to talk like this? Then you just gotta be firm with yourself, Get strong. Get strong, be courageous, be sincere, be honest, and be rational about this, because it is also reasonable that you are having all these problems because of how you deal with your language. Your way of dealing with language is problematic. You do not connect with yourself with your language. Your language disconnects you. So, what do you expect? Yeah. So, you can only be connected with your language if you talk with yourself and listen to yourself. So, unless you do that, and yes, you need to do that sufficient amount of time, often enough, again and again, as much as is needed, until you come to this point where you just realize, I am freaking enlightened. You just say, my language, my embodied language, it just keeps on going by itself. I'm not even trying to stop my disembodied language anymore. There's no need to stop it because it's not there. It's gone. It has been neutralized. It has been counter-conditioned, or whatever you want to call it. You are now having ongoing embodied language. Do you hear what I'm saying? I am enlightened. I am speaking to you with my language enlightenment from my point of view of having ongoing embodied language. It's fantastic. It is so exciting. It is so revealing. It is so energizing. You just cannot get enough of it. It is just fantastic. It's what you always wanted and never knew how to get to. And now you're having it. I'm having it. Yeah. And so, going back again to the issue that I was addressing, I was previously way too kind to everybody. I was way too patient. I was way too willing to accommodate. I've been sitting with everybody in the hope that we could have some embodied language. And we did, okay? We did. And everybody who has known me knows that we have had embodied language. I'm absolutely certain about that, yeah? However, it has, for me, affected me in such a way that I say, no more of that. I cannot be like that anymore. I don't want to be like that anymore. I've been like that, but I'm no longer like that. I cannot accommodate your urge to have disembodied language anymore. Fuck you, go to hell with your disembodied language. Everybody, the whole world. I am having embodied language, and if you want to have embodied language with me, you gotta take care of your own shit. Yeah? That's the honorable way. That is the decent way. That is the only way in which it is practically possible for us to have embodied language. So yeah, you gotta be responsible. You gotta be capable. You gotta be truthful. Yeah? And no, this has nothing to do with any of your spiritual bullshit. Yeah? This has nothing to do with your psychological crap. Yeah? All the stuff that people say in the name of psychology, in the name of philosophy, it doesn't come near this. Because you have not listened to yourself while you speak. You have not dealt with your own disembodied language. Yeah? And you can write about it, you can read about it. Yeah, people have done that. People have spoken about all kinds of things, but they haven't spoken about this. And particularly, they haven't spoken about this with themselves. Because that is what is needed. So, no more Mr. Nice Guy. Yeah? I have learned my lesson, so to speak. I have come to the conclusion that it is better for you if I am the confrontational person that I am with my embodied language, and I am no longer feeling accused by anybody who says, oh, that's your disembodied language, now you are having disembodied language. This has happened my entire life, that assholes who themselves are forcing themselves on me and on others, they're accusing me of having disembodied language. Well, I've dealt with them my entire life, and I know that what I have here, it sounds strong to you, you may not like it, and you may feel like, oh my God, he's so intense, he's so angry. No, this is my embodied language, and you just can't stand it. Yeah, that's what it is. And so I know what it is. I know what I'm talking about. I know that I'm talking about my individual behavior, and you want me, you want me to adhere to your group behavior. You want me to talk the way you want me to talk, and I'm not talking that way. I will never talk that way because it doesn't strike me as natural. I am natural, and this is how it works. This is how it sounds. And yes, of course, I can be excited. I can be, intense. I can be at any given moment very strong about certain things, and at other moments I'm more, more calm. But that doesn't make any difference for me as far as my embodied language is concerned. So I'm not going to, I only talk about stuff like this on my videos to let you know beforehand, because you gotta understand that unless you have fully taken responsibility for your disembodied language, you are just never ever going to talk with me. And as I have written in my writing last night, I wrote a piece where I said, I am your last chance. I am your last chance. I am your last chance to get this. There's nobody else that talks about this. There's nobody else that can make you get this. There's nobody else that can say it as I do, and that can hold you accountable, because that's another aspect about what I do here. I'm not confronting you with your disembodied language in your face. I'm not going to have a conversation with you about that. I'm not going to have a discussion or an argument with you about that. Fuck that. I've been involved in all of these, and at the end of the day, I was always accused. I was always blamed. I was always wronged. I was always rejected. And at this point, I'm just letting you know, no, I was always right. I was always right. And I just let you know that that is not going to happen anymore, because unless you take care of it yourself, you will not hear from me. You will never meet me. You will never talk with me. And your arrogant decision to stay away from me works perfect with me, because I don't want to have any part of your sick attitude, your nasty behavior, your manipulative, holier than thou behavior, because that's also what it is. You believe to be better than not only me but anybody, and your attitude is really horrific. You're always putting yourself above everybody, and whatever you say, you may try to make it seem as if you're so, you are so open, or you're pleasing me. You supposedly you are pleasing me. Supposedly you're doing me a favor to have embodied language with me. No, that's not how embodied language works. You have never done me a favor. You've done yourself a favor, but no, that is something that you cannot really stick to. So you make it seem as if you've done it for me, and that's why you were supposedly dependent on me. Well, go fuck yourself with your dependency, because I don't roll that way. And yes, I like to say this to you, because that's who I am. So now you've heard it. And I'm glad that I could say it, because today is the first day without smoke, and the smoke has cleared. So it all works out that way. Anyway, so that's kind of what I wanted to say. Okay, I'll leave it with this.